Hello, welcome to this brief introduction of StratexLive, Stratexsystems, cloud-based strategy execution and risk management service. Over the next few minutes I want to quickly run through the steps you take to sign up to use our service, how to create your strategy and risk management framework, how to update data within that framework, and finally we'll look at some very simple dashboard reporting. Signing up could not be easier. Simply add your email address to this box and you will receive an email with instructions to how to complete the sign-on process, add new users, etc. Once you have a StratexLive account, you simply log in and that takes you to the home page of the StratexLive solution. And you'll be presented with this initial front screen. Firstly, let's look at the navigation. So we navigate using the left-hand navigation bar, and we have the key items we'll use in the system, the framework, the updates, the navigator, and a few key dashboards located on the navigation bar. We also have the Stratex globals. The globals are a library of all the different element types that are used within the solution. The first panel on our dashboard is the update panel, and it shows us all the items that I need to action today. So as a user, in this case Jose, I've got 61 indicators to update, 11 actions, 46 risks, 14 controls. The second panel, the framework overview, gives me an overview of all the items within our solution. It also shows me the red items. So for example, I've got 32 KPIs, 8 of which are red, and if I double click on there I can start to get a view of the breakdown of those 32 KPIs, and over time my trend chart will grow and show me my trends around red indicators. Am I getting more or less red indicators? Beneath the front panel I also have Stratex Wall, which gives me a view of all the activity that's happened in the system. So as transactions are completed in the system, updates made, etc., they get recorded on the Stratex Wall, and that's really just to encourage people to engage in and use the system as they see the peers updating it. And a governance calendar, which allows me to record things like governance committee meetings and just track those through the system. We'll start by looking at how we define our organizational structure, how we define our strategy framework, how we define our risk framework, and that is done through the Stratex framework, and it's visualized through the Stratex navigator. So let me paint a picture for what you're trying to achieve, and then we'll actually show you how you go about doing that. So starting looking at the simple bank group, if we double click on that, we can see that simple bank group is made up of 6 subunits. It also has a number of items in its own right. So if we double click, we can see there are a number of objectives, number of processes, a number of systems, drivers, assets, etc. So what we do is we need to firstly define the framework of how we're going to look at our strategy and risk for simple bank groups. So in this case we have a series of objectives, and if I double click on that I can see that we also have underneath those objectives risks. Double click on that and I can see that underneath risks I've got some causes and some consequences, controls and KRIs. So this is the type of framework that we want to build as the first stage in setting up your StratexLive solution. To build those frameworks, we go into the Stratex framework. As you can see, simple bank group is already defined, and then here are the components underneath simple bank group. And if I drill down, increase shareholder value, which we looked at before, we can see KPIs, we can see risks, causes, consequences, controls, KRIs, etc. And as you'll see, this is a simple SharePoint list. So to add a new item to that list, no matter where you are in the framework, you simply go up to items, new item, and you're presented with a list of potential items that you can add to the framework at that point. I'm at the entity level now, so I have the full range of items to add. If I drill into the objective level and again go to new item, you can see that I now have far fewer items to add, and this menu is context sensitive and it guides you through the creation of your framework. So let's look at how I create a new risk. I'm presented with a simple form. Firstly, I need to select or create the risk, and I can choose to select it from the library, and as you can see, if I click the show all button, I get a view of all the items that are currently defined across the entire system. If I were to click show peer, I would get all the items that are defined for the peer organized entities of this entity, i.e. the brother and sister entities. If I click show parent, I would get the risks from the parent entity. Instead, what I'm going to do is simply define a new risk. New risk, new risk. So very simply, I can put a short name and a long name here. Select the state. Is it a key, non-key, or emerging risk? And what treatment do I want to provide? With the right level of access to the system, you're able to update these fields and modify these lists if you wish. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to look at reducing that risk, and I'm going to make Jose accountable and Andrew responsible. Part of the benefit of our solution is we build into and embed the RACI framework, and this is a great culture change tool and really helps embed strategy, execution, risk management into your culture. And certainly one of the benefits that our clients report to us is at the initial stages working through the process of defining who's the accountable, who's the responsibles, who do we need to consult, etc. So really working through and getting clarity on that stakeholder engagement piece. Updater is the person who will do the risk assessments and update this risk, in this case Andrew. I want to get that started at the start of this month. Monthly updates. If I want to group this in a specific way, I can actually on the fly create ad hoc groupings. In this case I won't do that, and I can include a rationale for the risk, so i.e. why is this important, and a notes field to save any other notes. Hit save. Hit save, and and new risk is now defined, and the workflow in the system will ensure that it's updated at the right frequency, notifications are sent around it, etc. I'm just going to delete that now. I'll also show you how to define a new indicator, and again, it's very simple form, very simple process. The only difference is worth talking about is the way we set baselines and thresholds. And baselines really are similar to a target, and then you set upper and lower thresholds. For example, you might say my baseline number is 100 for this particular indicator. If at 50% of 100 I want it to turn red, but if it goes 50% above, if it goes 25% above that number, I want it to turn amber. If I'm 25% below, amber again, 50% below, turn red. So this uses a RAG-R approach to scoring as opposed to a simple RAG, and it's designed again to reinforce a culture, or to help influence culture and encourage thinking about operating within specific thresholds and boundaries rather than hitting specific targets and potentially creating the wrong behaviors around that. If you wish to translate these numbers and thresholds into real numbers, simply swipe to the next panel and you can actually see those baselines and thresholds expressed as real values, and you can also just test whether you've got it right by entering a value and seeing what the color is. So 85 obviously turns green. What if it's 45? What does that look like? Oh, it's red. 25 red, 165 red, 135 amber, etc. So you can just use this to test that you've got your threshold set correctly, and that really is the only difference between when you're defining indicators versus pretty much every other element type in the system. So that just gives you a brief view of how to create new items, and you can create depending on where you can navigate the framework with this navigator. So if we go back to the top, we'll go back to the simple bank group, and as you can see, the Stratex framework allows us to define a whole series of elements that make up your strategy and risk framework. Within the framework there is a number of elements we define to allow you to manage your strategy execution and manage your risk. Firstly, entities are the business units within your organization, and an entity might be your corporate level entity right down to an operating team. Objectives are, what is this entity trying to achieve? What are the strategic goals of that entity? Why is it there? What's its purpose? Initiatives, all the change management projects and programs that you're undertaking to drive performance and manage risk. Processes are the day-to-day business as usual processes you're running that you want to control, monitor, manage. Systems are the big systems that support and enable you to execute strategy and manage your risk. Might be an ERP system for a manufacturer. For an investment bank, it might be trading applications, trading platforms. For a retail bank, it might be an ATM network. You can define individuals within your structure and define around people your risks and controls and indicators, and this allows you to align key people to key roles in the business. Roles are the key roles that you have in the business, and you can align roles to objectives and risks, etc. Assets are sort of any other item you want to define, and drivers are the key success factors, the real drivers of your performance and your risk within your particular organization, and taking into account your business model and your industry structure. Under each one of these levels, you can define a structure which is made up of risks, controls, and indicators. That's a brief look at the Stratex framework. Now let's have a quick look at how you might update data. As a standard, the updates on our cloud solution, StratexLive, are done manually. We can automate those updates, linking into line of business systems, but you need to contact us at Stratexsystems, and the update form is personalized to you as an updater, and shows only the indicators that you are named to update. So in this case, I've got a whole series, and I simply go in and add, in this case, this month's figures, and I can very quickly make those changes. And as I make the changes, I get a little update on my dashboard here. I can add commentary, and I can see a trend graph at the bottom. If you have people who are named as updaters who happen to be away, maybe they're sick, maybe they're on holiday, and the indicators need to be updated, and you are the responsible or accountable person, you can use this option here, update indicators based on your line of sight, to actually query, to actually bring back the indicators that are due to be updated, that are within your line of sight, your area of responsibility, and you can update those on behalf of the nominated updater. We also have the ability to get a quick overview of how many items you've updated, the different colors of those items, and also how many are left pending. Now I just want to quickly show you a couple of high-level dashboards of how we'll visualize some of this data, and some simple reports. So firstly, let's look at the strategy map. A strategy map is a strategic management tool, and I go to the framework navigate selector, I pick my organization I want to look at, and I am presented with the objectives of that organization. As you can see, I want to increase shareholder value. How do I do that? Well, I must grow income in key segments, increase average share of wallet, and achieve the lowest cost of funds and lowest cost to serve. How do I do that? Grow value and innovative systems, be a trusted, valued financial provider, etc. So this shows you in a cause and effect relationship how your objectives are linked to achieve an overall objective. One of the different aspects of our strategy map is that whereas most strategy maps color code the entire objective based on the performance of the underlying KPIs, we give you a view of those underlying KPIs, but we also include the underlying KRIs, key risk indicators, and key KCIs, key control indicators. This is designed to give you some additional insight. So you might find the situation where you are green for performance, but you're amber with risk. So is that telling you that in the future you may have a problem? Have you got threats coming down the line? And actually your controls haven't been updated. Again, is that a demonstration of some problems with the control environment? As you can see, the objectives are color coded, and that's based on the themes. So incorporating themes within your strategy map is critical to creating a high level of focus on specific themes that will deliver that overall strategy. Another dashboard type that we provide, as you would expect from any risk management system, is a heat map. So to load the risk map, again, select the entity you want to review, and the heat map will load. So we're presented with a heat map in the quadrants of the scorecard. This is very important because it helps when you're starting to design your heat map and starting to map your risks. Often one of the things we see is risks are defined in the context of their consequences rather than thinking about the event and the causes of that risk, and therefore you often see clustering around the financial and the customer perspective of the strategy map. So we simply present the number of risks and the level of exposure for each item. You have the ability to double click and review exactly what those risks look like in some more detail. And there's a swipe panel which allows you to move and have a look at a breakdown of some statistics around that heat map. Another view of your data is the indicator overview, and this just presents all the indicators that you're accountable for in a very simple dashboard. And the idea here is every month you go through and just click and say that you have acknowledged that particular month's data. Again, if you want to, you can add commentary or read commentary from this space here. So they are some of the examples of our more sophisticated dashboards. The StratexLive solution comes with a whole series of pre-built dashboards, what we call in SharePoint terminology views. So if I go back to the Stratex framework, you can see that I've got here my all items view. If I open that up, we can see we have a long list of items that show me all the items in the framework, or if I simply want to see my line of sight items. So for example, I might want to see what objectives are in my line of sight, i.e. which are the objectives that I'm accountable for, and we can see those here. You see the status, you can edit them if you wish, you see the long name, accountables, if there was someone responsible they would appear here, and then we can see some data about those items. If I want to view my indicators, or my line of sight indicators, same kind of thing. Again, I can see those indicators grouped by indicator type, are they KPIs, KCIs, etc. And I might actually decide that I want to view those. I want to view only my red indicators, for example, and we get a list of those. So these are just a very simple way of viewing your data. At any level you can view the item commentary around that item, and it's very fast to look at, and of course using SharePoint functionality, and again if you've got the right security permissions, you have a range of capabilities here. You can modify the view, you can create new views, using SharePoint functionality, so to create your own dashboards, and you can also do things like export to Excel. So that concludes our brief introduction to StratexLive, during which we looked at how you signed up to the system using simply your email address, clicking submit. I showed you how you define your strategy and risk framework using the Stratex framework, and that can be visualized and navigated using the navigator. Data, both indicator data, risk data, controls, etc., can be updated using the Stratex update, and that data can be visualized using strategy maps, risk maps, and other dashboards. Thank you.